Hello and welcome to FPL Malvo. My name is Andy. I've got my wildcard draft for you today. I think there's a lot of people who will be considering the wildcard, particularly if you didn't free hit last week. You may have like Luton assets, Kraminski, Morris, Alfie maybe others as well, like West Ham, Nottingham Forest, and Alanga, maybe a Pacquiao, who were good in the short term for you, got you through the blank, and now you want to move on. So I'll take you through my wildcard draft if you're considering it, or if you just want to see who I think the best players are going forward, and take a watch, because I'll take you through my draft. So first of all, I've built my team to my own team value, basically. I have a team value of 104.3 million. I've built this team to 104 million. If you're sitting there thinking I've got 100 million, say, in team value, I will talk through where you can save a bit. I think there's some obvious places in this team where you can take money out without downgrading it too much. And also, if you've got a little bit more value, I'll talk about where that can be spent. So to start off with the goalkeepers, and yes, I can see an issue straight away. I've gone for Kelleher. Now, basically, I've gone for the cheapest possible options in goal that are going to start. Kelleher may be incredibly short term on that, may start. But I think in Areola as your backup keeper, you can have him as a set and forget. Kelleher, I think he's a fantastic option if Alisson is out for a little while, but Alisson seems to be a bit of a mystery. I've seen some people say that he'll be back after the international break, but I've not seen any sort of confirmation from Liverpool about that. Kelleher is 3.8 million. If he's starting for one of the best defences in the league in Liverpool, then he is 100% worth that money. If Alisson is back after the international break, then Areola just starts every game for me. There are loads of decent options. I don't think there's any standout option in goal. Areola hits that sweet spot of being a good enough defence that he gets some clean sheets, but also a team that concedes enough shots that he gets some save points. He's one of the highest scoring goalkeepers. He's still only 4.3 million. There are loads of other options. You could look at like a Flecken or a Leno or a Saar or any of those sort of medium options. I don't really like premium keepers. I've got David Raya in my own team, but I bought him for 4.5, so it seemed worth the extra money. But yeah, if you want to go for those, you've got to think like, is Leno really worth 0.4 million over Areola? I reckon they'll probably get pretty similar points. So yeah, I've just taken money out of my team and I've gone as cheaply as I can in goal, and you'll see why when I talk through the rest of the team. So onto the defense. First up, I'll go with the expensive ones first. I've got Pedro Porro and I've got Gabriel. Now, I think from those Arsenal defenders, I think you've got Ben White, Gabriel, and William Saliba. They're all absolutely nailed. I've gone for the cheapest one. I honestly think that their points will be pretty similar from now until the end of the season. Ben White's got the lowest ownership and the highest points so far. I think he has more of an assist threat because he's further forward up the pitch. Even if it's just from like strikes from range from a short pass from Ben White, because he's involved and he has more touches in and around the box than the other two, he does get those kind of lucky assists, I guess. Whereas Saliba and Gabriel both have goal threat. I think Gabriel's traditionally is a little higher than Saliba, but Arsenal are just doing so well on set pieces at the moment that, yeah, I think you want one of them in. They've conceded the least number of goals in the Premiership this year, so yeah, I've gone Gabriel. Again, it's a money thing. If you've got more money to spend and you feel strongly that Ben White or Saliba are a better option, go for them. But yeah, I don't think it's worth spending the extra. And Pedro Porro has been, I think, with Trippier and Trent out, Pedro Porro is the most attacking defender in the game at the moment. I think that'll continue. Spurs don't get a huge amount of clean sheets, so you're really looking for that attacking potential. But he seems to be sharing free kicks and corners with James Maddison, so he's always got the potential of attacking returns there. But more importantly, from open play, he's like sometimes he's the one who's making the run beyond the last defender. Like he he plays like a sort of attacking midfielder most of the time and just defends as a right back. Yeah, I think his upside is so high. There are other players that are cheaper than him that'll tick along that you might get more clean sheets with, but Pedro Porro is the one where you'll potentially get a big haul in there. And I like the high upside players because they make a huge difference to your rank when it comes off. Alongside that, I've got Malo Gusto from Chelsea. Now, most teams have played 28 games this season. Some have played 29. Chelsea have only played 27. So you're getting a maximum game for your buck there. And Malo Gusto has been a shining light, I would say, in a poor Chelsea team. I mean, there's another person in that Chelsea team that I'll get onto later, but I think Gusto's up there as one of their best players this season. Um, I think the argument would always be if Chilwell and James were fit that he would be the backup. I'm not even sure if that's true. I think he's played well enough this season. Like Ben Chilwell's played quite a lot of games this season, but I think I'd have Gusto in front of him. I'd just move him to left back if James was fit and firing. And that's the other thing. Reece James hasn't been fit and firing all season. Even if he comes back, I'm not expecting him to jump straight into the team and play 90 minutes. So I think Gusto's minutes are relatively secure. He has attacking potential. Chelsea gets some clean sheets, not a ton, but some. Um, and he's cheap enough that you can just rotate a little bit. And I will be rotating him with Branthwaite from Everton and Richards from Crystal Palace. Now, Branthwaite's just a really good option. I think he's got some attacking potential. Obviously, we know Sean Dyche loves a big centre back in the box for a free kick, whip it into the mixer. Branthwaite's good in the air, so the attacking potential is there. But also, Everton have had plenty of clean sheets this season. I think they're a mid to top half defence, and it's scoring goals that's been an issue for them. So yeah, Branthwaite I love. I've got him in my actual team. I wouldn't do a draft without him. I think he's a genuine option to play. Probably not every week, but certainly as a rotation option. And then Richards is really cheap. He started every game since game week 14 now and played 90 minutes every game. Yeah, doesn't really have any attacking potential. I think he's got one return, and Crystal Palace haven't had a lot of clean sheets this season. So he's not a brilliant option, but he's a really good enabler because he'll play. And if you have a massive injuries, then yeah, you're probably only getting him in for 2 points, but you're getting him for 2 points and you're taking a huge amount of money out of your team over most playing defenders. So yeah, I think he's a decent option. There's the Luton defenders as well around a similar sort of price point, but quite a few of them are injured at the moment. Like you could go for a Bell, but I don't know when he's likely to be back. So I think as a fifth defender who's going to sit on your bench every single week. But if you have an emergency and you need him to come in and you want somebody who's pretty guaranteed to play, then yeah, I think he's a decent option in there. So onto the midfield, and I think it's pretty clear to see why I've gone relatively cheap on the defense and very, very cheap on the goalkeepers. And it's also where I think you can easily make downgrades and not suffer too much. So to start off with the two big hitters, Salah and Son. Now, I had it in my head that I always wanted Salah and that I would only be able to afford one premium alongside him out of Son and Haaland, considering I knew I wanted Saka in my team and some other big hitters. Um, and then I did a draft and I thought, yeah, there's enough enablers in here that I don't think you're sacrificing much to be able to get all three. So Son and Saka have gone in there. Sorry, Son and Salah have gone in there. Salah, I think, is a great captaincy option for the next 2 weeks. I think if I wasn't free hitting and you need to take a hit to get him in this week, I think it's probably worth it. The fact that he started against United before the international break, and now he's got the international break to get up to fitness, it's really positive for him starting the Brighton and Sheffield United game. And then Son, Richarlison looks like he's going to be back after the international break, and I don't know whether Son is a worse option when he shifts out to the left, but I think he probably will shift out to the left for Richarlison. They've got some options in there now, obviously bringing in Werner, and we've seen Johnson playing on the left a bit. But yeah, my feeling is that Richarlison will start off front and Son on the left. But yeah, I don't think it knocks him down as an option too much, if at all. If I was looking at downgrading because I couldn't afford this team, Son is probably the one that would make way. I think there's loads of great options, well, at 8 million. I don't think Madison is that much worse of an option than Son. He is a little bit, but not a massive amount. But you've also got Foden and Jared Bowen, and yeah, I like all of those players. And you can save yourself 2 million out of your team, swapping Son down to one of those guys. That's the first place I'd look at taking money out. I don't think Son's essential, but I think it's a nice luxury that you can get him in. Saka, I would 100% have. He has City this week, but he's been great this season. He had a little patch where I think people looked at selling him. He didn't return in sort of 4 games, I think, in a row. And then since then has returned almost every single week. Still on penalties. He does seem to get the odd one taken off him by Odegaard, but I think he's still their first choice penalty taker. He takes corners as well. Not all the time because Declan Rice takes a huge amount of them, but he does take a few. So has that potential from set pieces as well. And he's talismanic for Arsenal. He just, when he's fit, he plays 90 minutes every week. And then my two enablers are Gordon and Palmer. Another option for you, I would really like double Arsenal defence, I think, rather than double Arsenal attack, but I simply haven't got the money to do it. If I did have the money, then yeah, you could look at upgrading one of those cheaper defenders to, yeah, a Ben White or a Saliba. One option to take a little bit out is to use Declan Rice as your enabler in midfield, who's a little bit cheaper than Gordon. I've not gone for it in here. I think Gordon has goal threat, which obviously Declan Rice doesn't. In fact, Declan Rice's returns are predominantly from set pieces and assists, but he does get the odd goal as well. Gordon, though, is my choice because he's become the focal point really in that team. He's probably third choice penalty taker, but Wilson's been injured so much this season, you could almost discount him. And Isak has also suffered with injuries, and it means that Gordon plays through the middle sometimes, and then would take penalties in that scenario as well. He's scoring goals this season. He gets assists. He is obviously loved by Eddie Howe, who's played him. I know options have been limited because of injuries, but he's played almost every minute this season. He did get an injury in the last game for the international break, but he also went away on international duty, which makes me think he will be fine. Obviously, listen for updates on that. If you wildcard in and he doesn't play a minute with England, goes back to his club, then maybe you can consider looking at somebody else, like I say, like a Declan Rice, possibly a Garnacho as well. I think he's a pretty decent enabler in your midfield. And lastly is Cole Palmer, who is just essentially at the minute. He's all the things I've said: a penalty taker, free kick taker. He's been the absolute shining light in that Chelsea team. There's, for the price point, there is absolutely no way he won't be in everybody's wildcard draft. I would expect him to be priced at around 7.58 million next year. He's probably worth that money. And the same thing goes, as I said, about Gusto. Chelsea have an extra game on everybody in the league from now until the end of the season, so you get yourself an extra fixture in there. Yeah, there's no debate on that one. Palmer should be in everybody's draft. And so on to the strikers. I've gone for Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland. Now, first of all, on to Haaland. I think there is an argument to not have Haaland in your draft, but there isn't any big hitting players that I don't have. I think apart from, like I say, that Arsenal double up. So I would hold on to Haaland. It's only the next 2 weeks, I think, that are tough, and then you want to try and get him back into your teams. That Arsenal fixture, he got 2 assists in last year at the Etihad, so he is capable of returning in it. And then Villa have been off the boil a little bit. I think it's underestimated how much Kamara is a miss for them in the midfield as that defensive midfielder. I think he gives them solidity at the back, so the defense is better, and I think he's really good at starting attacks by finding balls into the pockets for those attacking players. They definitely miss him, and Yeah, I fancy that Haaland might be able to get something in that fixture, even though in the reverse fixture, Villa were brilliant. They outplayed City quite considerably. So yeah, I think there's an argument that you can go without Haaland. I wouldn't do it myself because I just think you'd be scrabbling trying to bring him back in. Yes, his returns have been down in FPL, but he also managed 5 goals against Luton in the same time period. So I don't think he's off it. I think I think a haul is due. He's not hit the heights of last season, but I think that's just by his own ridiculous standards. I'm pretty sure he'll still finish the season as top scorer, even though he missed, what, 2.5 months with injury. And alongside him, I've gone for Ollie Watkins, who's the top scorer in FPL so far this season. He's not returned in his last two. The fixtures are a bit mixed coming up. And as I was saying, I think Villa's injuries, just a couple of key injuries. It's not like across the board that they've got half a team. It's just that they're key players. And I think I don't know whether they'll hold on to that top spot. I think Ollie Watkins is another one that I've seen the arguments why you can go without him. Um, there are other strikers that I like as well that are definite choices. And again, it's if you needed to take money out of your team because your team value is less, then I don't think Watkins is absolutely essential. But he's been so consistent this year, and that Villa team is built to get the best out of Ollie Watkins. It is built around Ollie Watkins. Um, so he's going to be in my team. I can see the arguments for not going with him. I also think that Wolves fixture up first is a captaincy shout as well. I mean, you could say with Salah and Son in there, it's probably not the way you're going to go, but there are certainly games from now until the end of the season that you can justify Captain Ollie Watkins. I've got Muniz on the bench from Fulham. You can say it's reactive because he's just scored two in a week where no player has got any points, but he seems to be first choice at the moment. Raul Jimenez has been injured and has come back from injury, but surely he must have lost his place because Muniz has been so good in the interim time. Um, that Fulham team's really on the up as well. I think they're looking for a decent top half finish, a real outside chance at Europe. Um, so yeah, he's my punt because he's really cheap, 4.6 million. Similar to the thing I was saying about Richards, you wouldn't want to play him too often. I think in my team, it's not even really a rotation option. I think I'm just going to play my those five midfielders, those two strikers, pretty much most weeks. But if you need him to come in, genuinely decent option from the bench, minutes I think will be relatively secure. Now, there are loads of good striking options, I think, at the moment, which is unusual. There's been times this season where there seems to be next to no one. Dominic Solanke's fixtures are superb over the next sort of three or four. If you wanted to take some money out, downgrading Watkins to Solanke, I think looks like a decent move. I don't think you lose too much there. And then you've got United as well, who I mentioned Garnacho in the midfield as a decent enabler. I've had him in my team for a few weeks and he's not done particularly well for me, but Rasmus Højlund's been injured. Rasmus Højlund makes that United attack so much better. It's not just Rasmus Højlund, it's also the balance of the attack. They don't have a like for like replacement without him. Also, he keeps scoring. You could put Rasmus Højlund into this team in front of Ollie Watkins. I don't think you would suffer a huge amount there. If you need to climb rank, it's probably worth taking a risk on some punts such as that. So yeah, if you need to take money out, Watkins is a sacrificial lamb. I think you could also do it with Haaland, but I think the downside is probably higher than the upside on that. It'll be so highly owned, and I think you're going to want him back in after those Arsenal and Villa fixtures because the run looks really nice after that. So that's my wildcard draft. If you've enjoyed it, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I was I was sort of 90% sure that I wasn't going to wildcard this week. Like I say, I think it's mainly people who didn't use a free hit last week that are really going to be looking at using that wildcard because the players that they brought in over the last few weeks, they probably don't want to continue using forward. However, having built that draft, it looks so much better than my actual team. I don't know whether it's worth me saving the wild card. I was sort of eyeing up maybe a week 35, really hit the double at the end of the season. But yeah, I think it's maybe not 50-50, but I think the chance of me using the wildcard, having put that draft together, has greatly increased. But anyway, I will leave it there. I'll do the team selection video later on, probably next week, but before the deadline, and I'll tell you whether I'm going to be wildcarding or not then. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another video.